Yeah.
You want to like him, but you can't.
Are you listening?
What?
Are you listening?
Did you bring me on this show to insult me?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all don't want it with us, man. We straight gangsters over here,
Straight
man.
gangsters. Yeah, welcome in on this beautiful Tuesday morning. You are listening to Scout Team Sports. We bring it hot and live each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. And we are here live this morning to give you the latest and greatest sporting news. I am one of your gracious hosts. They call me Loudbeard.
You are the most egotistical, self-deluded person I have ever met.
Yes, and all of that is true. And the man on the other microphone, he is the great Patriot himself. You know him as... Dun, 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 dun. And that would be Chris America coming in hot and live like he always does. I'm sure he'll be back.
This is your boy Chris America coming to you live. Hey, Loudbeard, how you doing?
Doing all right there, man. How are you doing this morning? You having a beautiful morning so far?
Yeah, just forgetting that old mic button.
That's usually how that works. You are the man
You would think
that is the great Patriot / the man that doesn't know how to turn on a microphone. It's a thing.
Yeah. Well, at least I'm here.
Yeah, that's true.
You would think by, I don't know, we started this thing late August. You'd think by December I'd have this down, but nope, not at all. I've been chilling in the studio for like 5 minutes, too. Just listening to the commercials, eating my bowl of cereal. Just didn't hit that red button.
That's the worst, isn't it? I've done that a couple times.
No, you haven't. Nope. You haven't done it once.
Maybe once. Yeah, it's always you.
It's been all me.
Oh, all right. So the man with the golden mic, a.k.a. the golden ghost, a.k.a. the male aficionado, a.k.a. Anthony Mack. Wow, we have way too many names for that guy. He is going to be out today. He is on report. There was another international banana hammock contest, and we wanted to make sure that he had a front row view. So he's been standing in line for the last 22 and a half hours. Basically, as soon as he got off our show yesterday, he flew out to France and has been standing in line waiting to get the front row spot in the International Banana Hammock Contest. So we wish him the best of luck. He's going to bring in some hot reporting when he gets back from that so that we can go ahead and get all the deets.
He was not only just in the front line waiting, but he was waiting in nothing but a banana hammock in the freezing cold. Because it's cold over there in France.
Yeah, he said he's a shower, not a grower. So
all right,
we
let's save that
digress.
for tomorrow
Okay.
night's episode.
All right. Woo. Wow. Sorry I went there. So, Chris America, last night your Panthers went up against the Saints. So I have a lot of questions for you about this game. They might be some hard-hitting questions. They might be some tough questions. But I've got some. You got a lot of answers?
I have a lot of answers. You go first.
All right, so I've got some good questions. I also wanted to get into some NBA today, and we'll talk a little bit about how Georgia can't keep a good recruit. So we've got a lot going on today's show, but we'll start with the greatness known as your Carolina Panthers. Hot game last night, Monday Night Football. Okay, I'll give you the score. Saints win 12-9, right? So everybody who was up last night was able to watch it. If you weren't, it was a weird game, a little bit of a weird game.
Yeah.
But I do have one. Okay, so I have several questions for you. First question is the shoulder issue with Cam Newton. Is this becoming a little bit too much of a problem? Is this becoming an excuse? And should this be something that we look at moving forward where maybe Cam should not be the starting quarterback?
Well, it's not becoming a problem. It is a problem, and it's been a problem for probably 4 weeks now, 5 weeks now. normally Cam is inaccurate. Let's not sit here and act like Cam Newton is Drew Brees or, Aaron Rodgers. He's a very inaccurate quarterback. But the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's been one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks I've seen in a really long time. He's extremely inaccurate to where even his completions are off the mark and receivers are having to make ridiculous adjustments. We could have scored a ton of more points, I think, in a lot of these games had Cam Newton been able to hit the receivers in stride. There's so many times where a guy's running a crossing route and he has to dive to make the catch, even though he has 3 or 4 steps on his defender, and he could take that in stride and take it at least another 15, 20 more yards. But instead he's busy diving for the ball, going down for it. And, I mean, at this point, I think you shut him down just for his own health's sake. Like, we're basically eliminated from the playoffs. We're about Lloyd Christmas chance from making it into the playoffs. So there's no sense in continuing to have him play. But
So you're
I'm ready to
saying there's a chance.
yes, a Lloyd Christmas chance.
Well, that brings up my next question. Well, now that you are the team on the brink of elimination, you're kind of like the Cleveland Browns of the NFC at this point, where you need a whole lot of magic to happen before you get eliminated, or before you can make the playoffs. And I noticed something last night. I don't know if all the other listeners out there noticed this, but Norv Turner, he really knows how to bring out the real weapons. And when I think of the Panthers being the Cleveland Browns of the NFC, I think of that dynamic quarterback, Baker Mayfield, that they have out there that's leading them, that's leading the charge. And, they started out the year with Tyrod Taylor. Are the Panthers, are they with Cam Newton, kind of like what the Browns were with Tyrod Taylor? Do they need to bring in Christian McCaffrey as quarterback to lead this team, to be the next Baker Mayfield, to be the Cleveland Browns of the NFC? Would that hurt this team? Could he be the starting quarterback next week for the Carolina Panthers?
Seeing him throw that ball, that was actually a really good ball. And it kind of made Cam look bad because I talked about all those things about how he had a wide open receiver and he throws them. If he throws them in stride, they take it to the house. That's what Christian McCaffrey did on that pass. I mean, he just pulled up and just dropped it right in the bucket for his tight end, and he was able to take it to the house because of it. He didn't have to make adjustments. He didn't have to fall to the ground. He made the pass. It looked on point. And honestly, I think Christian McCaffrey is better than whoever we have as our backup. I should know who my backup is, but nobody takes time to learn who their backups are unless it's Nick Foles or Mark Sanchez.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know at one point it was Derek Anderson, but I think he's moved on. I don't know who your backup
Derek
is nowadays.
Anderson, where did he went somewhere. I think he's in Miami.
Oh, yeah. Good old Miami. So, and, I say it in jest, but honestly, when you look around the league, a guy like Lamar Jackson, I mean, probably passes the ball a little bit better than Christian McCaffrey, but he brings such a dynamic to that team that the Ravens got a spark and started winning. The Panthers they're on that brink of elimination. They really don't have a whole lot to lose. I mean, Cam Newton's hurt. You might as well bench him. Go for it. Go for the craziness. Like, imagine how wide open your offense would be if Christian McCaffrey was back there. All the run options, the whole thing would be fun to watch. And as a Panthers fan, you would tune in just to watch the show. You'd get your popcorn. You'd be throwing it up in the air and just loving every second of it. And your offense basically couldn't be any worse than it was last night. Think of all the scoring drives that Cam Newton had last night. Wait a second.
0.
It was Christian McCaffrey
The
and
same
an
number of
interception.
scoring drives that the Cowboys had.
Right. He's the Dak Prescott of the
now here we go.
NFC South.
Lad, are you ready to play a little bit of a who's game?
All right, let's hear it.
I wish we had the song "Who Are You" playing in the background. That'd be nice. But Taylor Heinicke is our backup. Can you tell me how many years has Taylor Heinicke been in the NFL?
I'm going to say it's his second year. He was an undrafted free agent last year. I'm just guessing here.
Ooh, that's close. That's 3 years.
3 years, okay.
3 years.
Was
so
he
can
drafted?
you get?
Does it show on
It
your
doesn't
Who's Who
show.
list?
It doesn't show
Okay.
on the Panthers website.
I blame the producer. That would be Golden Ghost.
Golden
Anthony
Ghost,
Mack.
yeah, he's
it's
supposed
all
to have
his
this stuff
fault.
ready
He's not
for
here
us.
today. Yeah, he was supposed to have the notes all prepared. He's missing all the important details. Figures.
Yep. But banana hammocks are more important. All right. So what college did Taylor Henneke go to?
Ooh, good question. Again, just a guess. I'm gonna say BYU. He sounds like a BYU guy.
He does sound like a BYU guy, but that's not it. So let me just double check something here. Do you know it is in the state of Virginia, I believe. Let me just double check. The college that he went to is in the state of Virginia. Here we go. Let's see. Where are you at? Yes,
This
it
is
is
a
in Virginia.
real Carmen Sandiego
It is.
situation.
It is. It is in Virginia. Does that help you with your guess? Does that narrow it down for you?
Well, if I think you would have known Virginia Tech and University of Virginia. We're in Virginia, so now I got to get a little wild here. You know, there's a VCU. Maybe it was Virginia Commonwealth University. No,
Getting closer
okay.
though. But they did play Virginia Tech this year
Oh, they did play Virginia Tech this year.
in football.
Was it Richmond? The University of Richmond. They have tarantulas. I don't even know if they have a football team.
I'll narrow
guessing
it down
here.
one more time. They beat Virginia Tech this year. No-name school from Virginia beat Virginia Tech this year.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember the name. I remember that being a huge upset.
Oh,
They stormed the field. What was
good
it?
old. What's that?
Go ahead.
The good Old Dominion University.
Old Dominion. Wow. Yeah, no, I wasn't going to guess that.
Good old
Wow,
Taylor Hanneke is from Old Dominion.
So now with that being said, you now have to compare Taylor Hanneke to Christian McCaffrey as possible
Yes.
starting quarterbacks. Does that make your decision a little bit easier?
It does because Taylor Hanneke has only 46 passing yards, no touchdowns, where Christian McCaffrey, I believe, has 50 passing yards and a touchdown.
Oh, it's a slam dunk.
Slam dunk. I'd have to look up his rating, but I'm guessing if you throw one pass for a touchdown for 50 yards, it's like 152 quarterback rating.
Well, I mean, just that one pass put his stats above Cody Kessler this week.
That it did.
I mean, obviously the man's got something good going on.
That'd
He's
be
clutch,
a good
fourth
game.
down
Like,
conversion.
that'd be another good trivia game. How many quarterbacks did Christian McCaffrey surpass this week by passing a touchdown?
That
He
would
had
be
more
a fun
passing
game.
touchdowns than Dak Prescott.
Yes.
He had more passing touchdowns than Eli Manning.
Yep.
Did Cody Kessler get a passing touchdown?
I don't believe so. I'd have
Did
to
your boy-
double check the stat
Did your boy
machine.
Josh Johnson get a passing touchdown?
No, I think they were rushing touchdowns.
Rushing touchdowns and field goals?
Yep. Lots of field goals.
Well, any other of those hard-hitting
Drew Brees?
questions? Oh,
Drew Brees
yes.
did not have any
He did
passing
not, yeah.
touchdowns.
Christian McCaffrey had more passing touchdowns than Drew Brees, which should solidify Patrick Mahomes MVP.
Whoa. I told you I had some questions for you.
Okay,
So
keep
this
going.
was my next question. Did Phillip Rivers just take a giant leap in the MVP discussion? This is where I want to This is what I want to ask.
I think he might have jumped to number 2. Listen, Drew Brees, as great as he's been all year, I think defenses have figured out that nobody else is catching the ball but Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. Nobody else is doing much of anything for the Saints. So if you just key in on those guys, they don't move the ball as much. And the Saints offense has been struggling. They struggled against the Panthers. I mean, they scored 28 points last week, but it was a hard 28 points for those Saints to get on a very bad Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense. And then, obviously, the week prior to that with the Cowboys, they struggled again. They're winning games. They're 2-1 in that stretch, but it's not because of their offense. It's because their defense has been playing lights out.
Yeah, I'm actually a little perplexed of what's going on in New Orleans. They look like they were unstoppable. And now all of a sudden they look like they can't even hardly get first downs. This offense has really changed. And your point being that defenses have been able to key in on their top guys, well, that's a great point because the Saints knew that was a problem for a while. They went out, they grabbed Dez Bryant, and that Achilles injury to Dez Bryant early on, that could have been a huge difference maker to this season. We didn't put a whole lot into that at the time. Yeah, it was a sad injury because he was trying to get back, and he had sat out, and he hadn't been on a team, and that would have been a great opportunity for him to come in and contribute right away. And then they bring in Brandon Marshall, who they ended up releasing, and Brandon Marshall just didn't have enough in the tank to make it on the field. And, you know, they just don't have a lot of weapons around them. And, you know, they've got a young guy and Traquan Smith, who was a UCF legend, just got to throw that out there, who has contributed a little bit, but they need another playmaker at wide receiver position. So they're missing that Dez Bryant type of guy that could complement Michael Thomas. And Alvin Kamara's ended up being the other wide receiver. And Mark Ingram, he carries the ball really well, but for some reason, the whole chemistry has just not clicked like it did earlier in the year. And the last 3 games, you mentioned the 28 points against the Bucks. Most of that, if not all of that, was in the second half, if I remember correctly. That first half, they couldn't do anything against that Bucks defense, and it's a really bad Bucks defense, like you mentioned, and it took them forever to get going against a bad defense. So that kind of makes me worry a little bit about where we're going with the Saints. Are they still considered to be one of the top playoff contenders at this point after what we've seen over the last 3 weeks? I think they've taken a step back.
I think they have too, and it's weird to say about a number 1 overall seed, but it's almost like they're limping into the playoffs, where they're going down this stretch where like we said, they're winning games and they're winning on their defense, but is it going to be enough to stop an offense like the LA Rams or another hot team that comes into the playoffs and just runs roughshod over them, and their offense can't keep up? When you have a quarterback like Drew Brees, he's not very mobile. Can he be elusive sometimes? But you don't have to put a spy on Drew Brees. That's never anything that you have to worry about. So if you can put a spy on Alvin Kamara instead of the quarterback, I think that's what defenses have been doing. Like anytime Alvin Kamara had the ball last night or they threw the ball to him, there was a Panthers defender right there. It was like he was Johnny on the spot. It didn't matter who it was. It just seemed like they had somebody just on top of Alvin Kamara. Like your job or your assignment on this play is to just keep Alvin Kamara behind the line of scrimmage. There were so many tackles for loss or so many tackles for 1 or 2 yards after they passed it to Alvin Kamara, which we're not used to seeing that. We're used to seeing Alvin Kamara get the ball, and he's got nothing but space in front of him, and he makes like a 20, 30-yard reception. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he takes a small reception and turns it into 20 and 30
Right.
yards. Brees didn't have to do any work earlier in the season. He'd have these little dump-off 2 and 3 yard passes, shovel passes and whatever, and all of a sudden Kamara would make 10, 15, 20, 30 yards out of them easily, and now you're seeing that defenses know that that's the trick, so they're stopping that, and that's creating a whole wave of this offense not being effective. And I mean, I guess it was bound to happen, but you talk about them being hot and then kind of backing into the playoffs. The teams that do well in the playoffs are always hot at the right time, and maybe the Saints were a little bit premature on their hot streak. Maybe they didn't come in as hot as they needed to be, so this could be tough. This could be real tough for the Saints moving forward.
I mean, they'll run into some problems with the Bears. There's not many offenses in the NFC that truly should scare you going into the playoffs for the Saints defense. The Vikings can be okay, but they've been so up and down with Kirk Cousins. It seems like all the other NFC South teams are eliminated. It looks like we're just looking at the Seahawks and the Eagles right now as the really two. The Eagles, the Vikings.
You're forgetting a dark horse.
Oh, your Washington Redskins.
The Josh Johnson-led Washington
Yeah.
Redskins. You know, with Josh Johnson starting as quarterback, they're undefeated. I just want to put that out there. This is
That
a
they
stat
are.
of the day. This is a hashtag facts. I'm going to throw facts at you. So with Josh Johnson as the starting quarterback, this team is undefeated. When you have an undefeated quarterback for this season starting for the Washington Redskins, you know that good things are going to happen. And you went up against a juggernaut of a defense, and you went ahead and you still get the victory. The Washington Redskins, things are looking up. I'm not counting them out. They're my dark horse. They're also my fan favorite, so I'm probably slightly biased to entirely ridiculously biased. But with that being said, my dark horse is the Washington Redskins. Don't count them out. They're getting hot just at the right time. Like I mentioned to you, the Saints are hot at the wrong time. The Washington Redskins just heated up at just the right time.
They're straight fire.
Yeah, I mean, and they play the Eagles at the end of the season. That is going to be a huge game. We do need a couple other things to fall into place, like the Cowboys losing out. That wouldn't be a bad deal. Maybe the Vikings losing out. That wouldn't be a bad deal. Seahawks losing out. There's a couple scenarios that would really help catapult both Washington and Philadelphia into the limelight as they battle for that last spot in the NFC. Hopefully it happens, but my dark horse, the Washington Redskins, you got to give them a little bit of love because they're still in that conversation, and their odds are a little bit better than the Panthers. Just saying.
They are. And Loudbeard, just kind of show you how much the offense has slowed down for the Saints. The Saints have a total of 459 points. In the last 3 weeks, they've scored 10, 28, and 12. So they scored a ton of points. I'm seeing a 51-pointer here, a 45-pointer there, a 43-pointer there, another 43-pointer there, another 40-pointer there. So, they've consistently scored 40 or more points in their season, but these last 3 weeks, it's just been tough. Coming up to bat, the Steelers, who are looking to get off the mat, and then the Panthers again at home. I should suspect that the Panthers will be packed in, ready to start fishing, ready to go to Europe, do those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, there's not a whole lot for them to push for. I mean, they are, like we had mentioned, not eliminated from the playoffs. It's like the Cleveland Browns. Now, I was listening to some commentary yesterday, and I thought this was a good take, and I'm going to bring up the Browns again. The Browns, with it being week 16, and the Browns can sit there and say, we are not statistically eliminated from the playoffs, that's basically like the Cleveland Browns winning the Super Bowl this year. After what they have gone through the last 2 years, that is like them winning the Super Bowl. Now, you with your your Carolina Panthers, you have a little bit of a different take because you had playoff aspirations. You're similar to me and my Washington Redskins, where we were looking really good midway through the season. We had very high hopes, and then all of a sudden we took a nosedive, and that nosedive was of epic proportion, and there needs to be a shakeup. Well, the Redskins started 4 different quarterbacks in 4 different weeks. That was our shakeup. It's about time you turn back to Christian McCaffrey. I'm jumping all on this train. McCaffrey needs to be your starting quarterback next week. What little hope you have needs to rest on that man's shoulders. He showed me enough last night to prove that he is a good enough quarterback to start in the NFL, and that to me is where I want to see from the Carolina Panthers. Make it happen, Chris America. Make it happen.
I'm going to make some calls. I'm going to have my people call their people. I'm going to make this happen. But, Landberg, you keep bringing up the Browns, and I think I know why.
They're America's team?
No, because last year, before last season, you predicted the Browns would win 6 wins, and I kind of jumped on board with you. And some people don't understand, when you're a sports medium like yourself, a sports psychic, some of your visions become a little hazy, and you're not sure when. And we thought, Loudbeard got his prediction wrong. But what we didn't know was you didn't get it wrong. You just didn't know when it was going to come. And I want to congratulate you for predicting this 6-win season 2 off seasons ago.
Yes. I was just a year off. I shot it a little bit long. That's what she said.
Short.
No, I don't shoot short. No, that doesn't happen. You need to check yourself, Chris America.
Before I wreck myself.
That's right. Now, I shot it a little bit long. And now my predictions are coming through. I looked a little silly last year, but I was just a little bit early. Wee bit early, but now it is all coming together. Wow.
So,
good stuff there with Cleveland.
Loudbeard, you had a question for me. Memphis Spence, a fan, listener, and friend of the show, wants to ask you who has a better chance of getting into the playoffs now, the Browns or #HTTR?
Well, obviously the answer is #HTTR. I'm going to say that
obviously.
because
Josh Johnson.
Well, Josh Johnson, he's a very dynamic quarterback. Who knew we had a diamond in the rough? He's a regular Aladdin, if you know what I mean. And we have found him. It took a couple ugly ducklings. It took a Mark Sanchez. It took a butt fumble recovery. It took a couple broken legs. I mean, we've really gone through the trials and tribulations of a real NFL season, and now we've come out on top. Well, kind of. In the middle, 7-7. We're 500. That's on top for the Washington Redskins. We just have a much easier path than the Cleveland Browns. I'd love to say the Cleveland Browns have a chance The problem is there needs to be 10 different things that happen for the Cleveland Browns to have a chance. Just for them to be in that conversation, though, this is like their Super Bowl, where the Washington Redskins, I actually did not have very high expectations coming into this season. 7-7 right now is probably about where I thought we would be, but we are right in the thick of things. Yes, we did beat a really, really, really bad Jaguars team led by Cody Kessler. Thank goodness they benched Blake Bortles. With Bortles out there, it could have been a whole different story, but they benched Bortles to bring in Kessler, who doesn't even know what an offense is, and that helped the Redskins get this win. I'm not extremely optimistic on the real side. I'm not going to say, yeah, the Redskins have a huge shot. I would say, being unbiased, that I would say the Redskins have a better shot than the Panthers, but I would put the Eagles being much better positioned to win right now. They're coming in a lot hotter. Huge victory over the Rams. They've got the Redskins at the end of the season. I would put my money, if I was just straight, unbiased decision, I would say the Eagles have a much better shot than the Redskins. But as a fan, I'm keeping hope alive, Chris America. I got to keep hope alive. How can I just give up on my Redskins like that?
Well,
Hashtag
listen.
HGTR.
Listen, Loudbeard, your Redskins could actually help out the Browns in their playoff hopes. You guys play the Titans this week. If you beat
Remember
the Titans,
Remember the Titans, because they're going to be lost forever after the Redskins stomp them this weekend.
so if you stomp if you stomp the Titans, then you help out the Browns. Their playoff hopes stay alive, because that eliminates one of the teams that they have to go against for that wild card spot. So I think it's going to be the Browns. They have the better quarterback. They have the Rookie of the Year. Yep, I'm calling it. I'm calling Patrick Mahomes MVP, and I'm calling, which I've been calling since week 1, by the way, and Baker Mayfield,
I don't remember
Rookie
that.
of the Year. Oh, I remember it. I've reminded you guys every single week.
No,
Patrick
no,
Mahomes
nope.
for life.
Doesn't ring a bell. Nope.
You know what Patrick Mahomes fans are called? I'm just gonna make this up right now. We're called Mahomies.
Okay, real original. Real
Real
there.
original.
Yep. Look at you. You were also the one that said the Dolphins were going to go to the Super Bowl this year. How's that
Never
working out
said
for you?
that. Never said that.
I heard you say it twice at least.
I do have a Dolphins cup in front of me right now, though.
Do you really?
Yes.
When you live in Florida, they're always on clearance.
Well, no, what's funny is they came from Miss America when we started dating. You know how, like, when you start dating somebody and then you move in together, your cups and stuff kind of mix?
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and snap a little photo shot of that right there.
Oh, look at that. Tweet it. Tweet it out right now. Now, would the dream scenario for Loudbeard be the Browns and the Redskins making the playoffs?
Yes.
It could happen. It could. There's a statistical possibility. So we're saying we've got a Lloyd Christmas chance right now for both the Redskins and the Browns to make the playoffs. And I would be glued to the television all playoffs long, because I'd love to see how these hot teams can make it. Oh, I'm just right now, football ecstasy.
All right. What else we got coming up after the break there, Loudbeard?
All right. Well, I want to talk to you about some quarterback situations in the NFL. So we'll get into those after the break. I know you're high on this Patrick Mahomes for MVP, but there is another man that I know will make a run and deserves the MVP, and a man with 27 children deserves it more than this young buck known as Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to get into that, but there might be some quarterbacks on the streets this year, because we've got some young guys like a Lamar Jackson that came in and stole a job. We've got an old man like Eli Manning. Will he be there next year? We've got a guy like the best of all time, Blake Bortles, who may be looking for employment next year. So I want to pick your brain and find out where you think all these quarterbacks land. I also want to know from you, Chris America, are fights back in the NBA? Because every time I watch an Oklahoma City Thunder game, I feel like there's a fight that is back, and I love it. And we're back to fighting in the NBA, and I want to get into that a little bit. Also, Georgia losing the number one recruit. We got to get into that. So that's what we're getting into after the commercial break.
So when we get back, we will discuss, did the Georgia Poodles check bounce in Justin Fields' bank account?
When I'm working hard, I build up a thirst for sports. That's when I grab a cold 12-ounce sports radio. "12-ounce sports radio. Quench your sports thirst."
Oh, guess who it is? Did you know the station had a janitor? Oh, yeah, the Jefe, otherwise known as Beck. And it's Beck's Work Week in Review live on 12-ounce sports radio every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Catch interviews, special guests, and the recap of the week's news and headlines and box scores and results. It's Beck's Work Week in Review live on 12-ounce sports radio.
Scout Team listeners and friends of the show, I've got something special for you. It looks like 12-ounce sports radio has done it again. We have partnered with Rally House. You just go to the website 12ozsportsradio.com. Click on the banner on the right side of the page, and it will take you directly to Rally House. Rally House has some of the greatest, most unique sports items for that diehard fan, casual fan, and anybody and everybody out there that is special in your life. So go ahead and check it out. Once again, go to that website, 12ozsportsradio.com. Click on the banner to the right of the page, and you will get taken to the best sports merchandise website on all of the interweb.
You are the most egotistical, self-deluded person I have ever met.
Yeah, that is me. Well, welcome back. You were listening to Scout Team Sports. Thank you for hanging in there. Had some little bit of technical difficulty with the commercial queuing up properly, but that's right. We are live, and we bring it to you hot and live weekdays, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. and again at 11 a.m. And I wanted Chris America not to feel bad because he couldn't turn his microphone at the beginning, so I needed to make a colossal mistake also, and
We
that's
are
okay.
unedited, unscripted, in your face, real sports.
The nice thing on the podcast is I'll cut out the little bit of dead air that happened in between there, Chris America. I don't know if you heard all that.
Don't
but
feed a fed horse.
I'm gonna hit two birds with one scone. I'm gonna throw the
Yes.
scone right at their head, and that's what I do. If you like listening to us, make sure you check out our podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or anywhere you can find a podcast. Or you can check out our website, ScoutTeamRadio.com.
Loudbeard, I'm opening up a bakery. It's gonna be like a sports themed bakery, and the first thing we're gonna sell is Patrick Moscones.
You have an unhealthy obsession
I
with
do
this
have
man.
an unhealthy
You
obsession
do.
with this man.
Wow.
But you know you'd eat yourself some Patrick Moscones.
I do need some Patrick Moscones. So, last little bit of NFL I want to talk about. We won't get into this MVP conversation because I already know who you like. I already know who I like. We think that you think Mahomes, I think Rivers. We're not going to be able to bring us together today. We still have a couple weeks left, and let's see what happens. But
we could have some Jelly Phillip donuts.
Jelly Phillip donuts. I like it. The River of Jelly donut. No, that didn't work. So there's going to be two big-name quarterbacks on the street here come at the end of the season, Joe Flacco and Blake Bortles. Now, these aren't your number one guys. This is kind of like, I would say a notch above your Sam Bradford of free agent availability. And we saw how many teams went out and got Sam Bradford year after year after year. So you're getting a little bit better quality than a Sam Bradford. You're getting a lot of starting experience. Are there some teams out there that you think will have interest in these guys? The teams that come to mind for me, Washington Redskins obviously have some QB question marks. Denver Broncos, is Case Keenum the answer there? Are they going to look for somebody in the draft, or you think they might possibly look at one of these free agent guys? Arizona, it's still too early to tell, but it doesn't look like Josh Rosen is going to be the answer. Where do you see Blake Bortles and Joe Flacco landing next year?
Unfortunately, I think if Blake Bortles lands on a team, he's going to be the backup guy, or he's going to take on that Tyrod Taylor role that we've seen, where we're gonna draft a guy early, but we're gonna bring in Blake Bortles. he's going to start 2 to 3 weeks, and then we're going to put our rookie in. That kind of role as of late, unless he comes out those 2 or 3 weeks and lights the world on fire and forces that team to keep him in. Whereas Joe Flacco, I think Joe Flacco is a legitimate candidate to start a full season next year. I think a lot of teams are going to want him. I could see a trade happening between the Jaguars and the Ravens. I could see a trade happening between Denver and the Ravens. Trying to think of what other teams would be in the market for a quarterback. Maybe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if they decide to move on from I can't even think of his name. Jameis
Winston.
What about the Miami Dolphins? They should have been done with Ryan Tannehill like 4 or 5 years ago, but for whatever reason they've kept him around. They need to move on from him.
The Tannehill experiment is done.
It's if he can't stay healthy, he can't be good. It's one of those two. He's just an average quarterback. He's never going to lead you past 8-8. He had the one season where they went 10-6, and I've gone over it ad nauseum on the show why they went 10-6. It's the old college football rule, strength of schedule. They didn't have a good one, and that's why they have a playoffs to weed those teams out, and they did. But yeah, I could see Ryan Tannehill being replaced by Joe Flacco. So there's lots of landing spots for Joe Flacco. I think there's a market for him.
Absolutely, and I'd have to say yes. I mean, Joe Flacco has won a Super Bowl, so yeah, he's got to be a little bit ahead of Blake Bortles, and he's been a very good professional his career. Now, I think his stats have kind of tapered off the last couple of years. I think Blake Bortles is more of a wild card, though, because when you look at this offense and how he has zero weapons around him, he could be a better quarterback if he's put in the right situation. So let's see what happens, but we could see a lot of fun this offseason with this quarterback carousel that happens each and every year. All right, Chris America, I want to get into some NBA action. I mentioned fights in the NBA. OKC is always involved in fights. They're brawling last night. They're fighting with Chicago, kicking a team while it's down. We already know Chicago's a hot mess. Westbrook, he's not the starter or the finisher, but he has definitely got himself involved. Russell Westbrook loves to get himself in a good fight. Oklahoma City wins 121-96. But to me, the highlight of this game, Brook Lopez, Sideshow Bob-looking guy, is out there, and he is pissed, wanting to swing on Jeremy Grant. I love it, man. We're bringing back the 90s NBA, whether people like it or not. Everybody talked about NBA players nowadays are soft. I'm seeing a little bit of these guys toughening up. And I think Russell Westbrook is bringing back a little bit of that bad boys nastiness that we had in the 80s and early 90s. I love it. And Oklahoma City, they're one of my favorite, I guess, ancillary teams. Outside of Orlando, I love watching Oklahoma City. I love what Russell Westbrook does. I know a lot of people think he's a ball hog, but him and Paul George, they're going to make some noise these playoffs. I love it, Chris America. What do you think of my Oklahoma City Thunder?
I think your Oklahoma City Thunder is great, and I think the fighting and everything, I think that shows that they have a competitive edge to them right now, and that's why they're one game back out of first place in the West. They've been my surprise team of the year. I was kind of expecting them to be just another ho-hum Oklahoma City Thunder team that hangs around the 5 to 7 seed, but they've been scrapping and fighting and clawing their way. Now, they're 9-8 in the conference, which isn't that great, but nobody really has a great record in the Western Conference right now except for the Denver Nuggets at 12-4. The Warriors are 11-6, and then it's kind of everybody has that sort of 9-8, 12-8, 9-10 type records in the Western Conference. But I think the Thunder, they're a scrappy team, and that's kind of what you need in the NBA. If you're not going to outshoot and out-finesse the Warriors, and I think we've talked about this before, so maybe you're going to have to outfight them. That's how you brought up the Pistons and the Bad Boys. That's how they beat Jordan, is they just beat them up. They said, hey, if we can't beat him on the court, let's just beat him up. Let's surround him around like we're a bunch of schoolyard bullies and take his lunch money and turn him upside down until his quarters fall out, kick him while he's down, and then move on to the next kid.
Now, I'm with you, man. I think that's the way to go. And I love it. I love seeing that. Now, you mentioned the Golden State Warriors. Golden State has won 6 out of the last 7. It looks like a lot of the drama is behind them. Is Golden State back? Are we back to the Golden State Warriors that we expected?
I think they can be back. I don't know if they're fully back. You mentioned they won 6 of the last 7. They're 7 for 3 of the last 10. And I think it's not going to be an easy walk through the park this year, I don't think, for the Golden State Warriors. I don't know if they're ever going to be truly back to what we have grown to know and love or hate them as. But you know another team that's back, Loudbeard?
And who is that?
That is, of course, last week when you looked at the standings, you saw the number 14 seed, the 14th best team in the West was the Houston Rockets. And James Harden has been going off. I think he's had 2 or 3 triple-doubles in a row. He scored over 40 points last night. And the Rockets are back. They are fighting their way back in. They've gone from 14 to 10, and they're 6-4. They're on a 4-game winning streak. I think they're going to be back soon. I think we're going to see them just continue to climb up this Western Conference ladder, and that could be the dangerous team that we've been kind of waiting to see this whole entire season.
They're just too good and too talented to be held down for this long. You're seeing them finally emerge. I think the problem with the Rockets is going to be Chris Paul. Chris Paul has got to step up his game. He has not played up to his skill level at this point. If he can get his mojo back and James Harden continues to be the James Harden that we know he is, this team will be back and they will be a tough out in the playoffs. I don't believe they're going to get up to the level that they were last year, unfortunately, but I can see them really finishing the season off strong, and we're starting to see that already. James Harden said, you know what? I'm going to take this team over. I'm going to start showing the world who I am, and he is a triple-double machine, scoring like 50 points one night, just completely lighting the NBA world on fire. So I agree with you. The Rockets are back, but you know who isn't back, Chris America?
Who's that?
And that is Jimmy Butler. The poor Sixers, they lose last night, 123-96, up against they were playing the Spurs. Yeah, the Spurs are a good team, not a great team, but a good team out in the West. The Sixers are now 4-4 in the month of December, and they are trying to figure out how they can get Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons all to fit together. There's a little bit of a chemistry problem here, and I don't know if the Sixers are back, but I'm a little nervous where the Sixers are going. This trade so far doesn't look like it is paying off the dividends that they thought it would.
Yeah, if I told you the top 6 teams, the top 3 of the Eastern and the top 3 of the Western were going to be the Raptors, the Bucks, the Pacers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Thunder, I think the only 2 teams you would have told me I wasn't crazy about were the Warriors and the Raptors. I think the other 2 or the other 4 teams, you would have been like, seriously, Chris, go get some medication, go get some help. And I think it makes for a fun NBA season when we go into the season. We had our expectations. We were like, oh, this is going to be Raptors, 76ers, and Celtics on one end, and then it's going to be the basically
you said Lakers.
just the
You were
Houston,
high on the Lakers to begin the year.
I
Yep.
was. And then you would have said the Houston Rockets and really the Warriors and not really anybody else, I don't think, to lead the West going into Christmas break. But, man, Bucks, Pacers, they're doing pretty good. They're only 2 games. Pacers are 2 games back from the Raptors. Bucks are 1.5. And with the Western Conference, it's close. There's a dead heat for first and second and Nuggets and Warriors, and then the Thunder are a game back. And your Lakers, believe it or not, 2.5 games back from first place.
Yeah. All right. I like it. Now, does it make you kind of sad that Oladipo is leading the Pacers to be such a great team, and we had him in Orlando? It still hurts my soul a little bit.
It does a little bit, but the Orlando Magic, being the international superstars that they are, went into Mexico City this past weekend and laid the smackdown on 2 teams, and they were 2-0 in Mexico City. We'll beat you in Orlando. We'll beat you in L.A. We'll even beat you in Mexico City. It doesn't matter because the 8th seed Orlando Magic, the Magic are back.
Well, the Orlando Magic are an international sensation. They're like the Ricky Martin of the NBA. Everybody loves them. They do. They love them. They live in La Vida Loca, whatever we're doing out here. They love them. In Mexico City.
El Magico.
Yes, El Magico. We call them the Mexico City Magic now. They've officially adopted the name. It's endearing. I mean, it hurts us as Orlando natives, but, you know, whatever. We're going to have to live with it. We'll have to share it with Mexico until the wall is built.
Oh, jeez. Let's not go there. One team if you're ready to jump off the NBA ship, I'm going to jump off of it real quick. One team that needs to build a wall to keep their 5-star quarterbacks on campus is the Georgia Poodles. They lose another 5-star quarterback to transferring, and this time it is none other than Justin Fields, the number 1 overall quarterback last year, or he was at least the number 1 overall dual threat quarterback. I don't follow recruiting that closely, but I do know he was number 1 at something, and now he's the number 1 transfer on the free market right now. Loudbeard, are you surprised?
Absolutely not. I don't even understand when these 5-star recruits, number 1 overall quarterback, why do you go to a team that already has an established quarterback that will be there for a couple years?
Yeah.
Because what happens is you go in there and you have this expectation that you're going to be starting sooner than you actually will be starting. And I don't know. You want to go out there and compete. Jobs are never given. They're always earned. And maybe there was an unrealistic expectation of him being able to earn a starting job sooner than what he would actually be able to get out there. And I mean, I haven't seen anywhere where it says where he's looking at going, but this is a huge deal for Georgia. This shows that their future may be a little bit rough. I mean, they've got a great team now, but when recruits start decommitting and that number 1 recruit decommits, that's a bad sign for your program. And the coach is to blame, Kirby Smart. What did he tell that kid? What check did bounced that he... was it his mom's house that he promised her? Or was it the cars? Was it the Benz? I don't know what it was, but something did not come through for this young man.
Yeah, it's been rather suspicious that Kirby Smart came in and just lit the recruiting world on fire, turned Georgia into the number 1 destination, which I've been following college football for a long time. That's never happened. They've had a bunch of top recruiting classes, top 3, but year in and year out, he's just been hitting it, number 1 overall class, number 1 overall class, when Alabama was, for the longest time, the number 1 overall class. And that's what made it not as suspicious, because maybe Kirby Smart was the reason why Alabama kept getting all of those recruits. But it just kind of seemed a little off that he kept getting these 5-star quarterbacks every single year to commit to him. That's when it kind of sounded some alarms, where it's like year after year you get the top quarterback or one of the top quarterbacks to commit to you. That doesn't make sense, because like you said, why would you go to a school when there's an established quarterback already there? And there's so many other good teams out there that you can start for right away. I think if he wanted to, he could have gone to Clemson. He definitely could have gone to Florida. He could have gone to Auburn. He could have gone to LSU. He could have gone to a lot of different schools that are solid teams.
He could still go to Florida.
He could still go to Florida.
Think about that.
Unfortunately, he'd have to sit out. But
yeah,
whether it was a check that bounced or it was a promise that he wrote that he couldn't keep, which is probably the one thing, is what is he filling these kids' heads up with to make them think that, yes, going to Georgia is a good thing for me, and then a year later, it's not so much?
I don't know. Maybe he brought in gumdrop rainbows and he brought in Skittles and pots of gold. I don't know what he brought in, but he is filling something into the heads of these young recruits. And now all of a sudden these great recruiting classes aren't looking so good when you get the top guy decommitting. And I'm curious to see where this story goes. Where is Justin Fields going to go? What is going to happen with him? And it's not the end of the story. This is just the beginning. And as more details come out, it's going to get juicier and juicier.
And Loudbeard, just real quick, you can hit us up at Scout Team Radio. Memphis Spence, friend of the show, has another question. I'll jump right back on to the NBA ship real fast. Which team that is currently in 8th place will not make the NBA playoffs, the Magic or the Grizzlies? It'll be the Grizzlies. Don't ask such silly questions, Memphis Spence. The Orlando Magic are here to stay. The Orlando Magic are back.
The Memphis Grizzlies have a Brooks problem. I don't even want to hear them in this conversation.
Yeah, we couldn't even sort out which Brooks they ended up with. I think they ended up with Brooks and Dunn, Mel Brooks, and Jamie Brooks, the adult film star.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dynamic trio.
That's a menage a trois.
Oh, you're getting real graphic this morning, Chris America.
I mean, it just means 3 in Spanish.
Oh.
Or not Spanish, but French.
You're an international traveler. It's all that Mexico City traveling that you went to for the Orlando Magic games. Insider.
Well, we said that the Golden Ghost is in France right now with his banana hammock modeling show, so he sent that to me. He said, hey, it's just 3 in French.
He would know. That's how many bananas he's counting right now.
He
so
is trilingual.
Brian Kelly gets named AP Coach of the Year. Any surprises here? We know that Josh Heupel with UCF was in the conversation. He ends up finishing 3rd. Nick Saban finishes 2nd, and Brian Kelly finishes 1st. Are you surprised that Brian Kelly won it, or is this something that you thought was kind of going to happen no matter what?
It feels that way because the Coach of the Year award is never a "you're the best coach" award. It's always a "hey, look at you doing better than we thought" award. And that's why Brian Kelly won it and Nick Saban and Josh Heupel didn't. Brian Kelly, nobody really expected Notre Dame to go undefeated and be in the playoffs. Nobody expected that. Everybody expects Nick Saban to go undefeated and make the playoffs. And unless you're a true UCF hater, you expected Josh Heupel to maybe not go undefeated, but you knew they were going to win 10 to 12 games this year. That was already a set lock-in. UCF is just a really good team, and you really just have to stand on the sidelines and call plays and watch the greatness of UCF. So I think that's why Saban and Heupel didn't get it.
No, it makes sense, but that begs the question, why is Saban not getting more recognition for these awards? And you're right, it's the expectation piece of it. But if I look at it, each and every year, Nick Saban is typically the best coach out there. And I know it gets boring. It's like when LeBron James was winning MVP and they're finally like, we need to find somebody else to give it to. All right, Derrick Rose, we'll give it to you. LeBron, you're number 2. Kevin Durant, we'll give it to you. LeBron, you're number 2. Like, they needed to start giving it to other guys, and that's what Nick Saban's ended up being. He's like the LeBron James of college football coaching.
Same with Bill Belichick.
Oh, absolutely. He's not going to win Coach of the Year because they expect the Patriots to be in the playoffs. They expect Alabama to be in the playoffs, and when they meet those expectations, it's like, you're a great coach. We recognize that, but we want to give it to the guy that exceeded expectations, though there's not much you can do to exceed expectations when you're Bill Belichick or Nick Saban because the expectations are so high. But a guy like Brian Kelly, who some people honestly have been ready to move on from year in and year out. He gets a lot of criticism.
2 years ago, I think they were like 4-8 or 5-7. They were somewhere around there, and people were ready to fire him. He comes back. They had a decent season last year. They finished off with beating LSU in the bowl game, and then they start off this season with beating Michigan, and they've just been on a roll since. And again, it's not a "you're the best coach in the NFL or college football." It's never that. It's you overwent our expectations for you. You did what we didn't expect you to do. So I think the only way that the Bill Belichicks can win the MVP or the Coach of the Year is if Tom Brady retires or gets hurt and they go to the playoffs without him, or if somehow, for some way, the Alabama Crimson Tide end up going to their walk-on quarterback, or their kicker goes in at quarterback and leads them to the playoffs. I think that's what it would take for Nick Saban or Bill Belichick to win Coach of the Year. And I think it's taking LeBron James going to L.A. and leading a team that was a dumpster fire into the playoffs. I think that could help him win MVP this year.
Oh, good point. What about Ron Rivera winning it if he brings Christian McCaffrey in as quarterback and they end up squeaking into the playoffs? Would that be good enough to win it?
Hands down, Ron Rivera, Coach of the Year. Lock it up.
Lock it up. So stay tuned tomorrow when we will find out, can Anthony Mack catch the plane and get back soon enough to give us an update on his Banana Hammock International contest?
I sure hope he doesn't. Yeah. I sure hope he doesn't get sick being out in the cold like that.
I mean, when he wears hardly nothing and then he stands out in that freezing cold temperature, I always worry about it.
Yeah,
I always worry that...
He's a bear of a man, though. I think he can handle it.
Yeah, he is a bear of a man.